Welcome to another edition of the Corner Booth Podcast here from the Snowdon Deli. I'm Aaron Rand from CJD, along with Bill Brownstein of the Montreal Gazette, and our special guest today. First of all, let's say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Or actually, sorry, let's say good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I should mention, we thank you for being here. You said I prefer to be here in the summer.
Yes, you always invite me in the dead of winter.
Martine said Victoria, communications strategist. She's also a communications analyst. You do work for Ratcan, you do work for La Presse. And of course, Raphaël Melançon, who you may recognize, CTV, CJD.
And a
now
Gazette
columnist at the
Yes.
Gazette. Yeah. So we thought we'd take the opportunity here and kind of look back on the year, on 2025, and deal with some of the bigger stories. And obviously, if
Were
we go
there
all the
any
way back,
bigger
it's the end of the year.
Really?
Now. There were a couple.
Oh, I didn't know anything.
So I thought we'd start with chronologically, if we could, back to January, when Justin Trudeau, despite rumors that he would and hadn't stepped down, finally decided to make the decision to step down. And let's start with that, because to me, what really stood out was when Donald Trump announced his plan on tariffs. I remember Justin Trudeau sitting there with a pile of papers about 500 pieces deep, saying, "If they do this to us, here's what we can do to them," and banging his hand on the. And that was the end, pretty much, for Justin Trudeau. So, significant in the sense that. I think the Conservatives at that time had a more than 20-point lead.
Yeah. 25
polls,
points, I think, yeah.
And everything turned around.
Yeah, things turned around. I will say this about former Prime Minister Trudeau. I thought his farewell speech was a phenomenal speech. I thought that was the best of Justin Trudeau, which we hadn't seen, because he had never been tested like that. He had been tested during COVID, and I thought he led the country, particularly at the beginning, was able to get the trust of Canadians. I thought that was great. His farewell speech was phenomenal. And when I heard him, I said, well, this is a stepping stone for his post Prime Minister career. And so I think we should expect to see him on an international stage, kind of a grand sage. He has that gravitas. He got it back with that speech. Canadians were ready for a change. After 10 years, it's not abnormal. And I think, the transition to Prime Minister Carney was seamless. We needed that type of pragmatic leader, and we got one.
And he's got Katy Perry, so what more could he have?
For now.
Yeah, that's his gravitas.
That's the international.
Yes.
So, Raph, what about you? I mean, when I hear you say how that changed Canadian, I don't know if it changed everyone's opinion of him giving that speech, but up until then, he had resisted pretty regularly the idea to say, for the better of the party, you better step away, which is, of course, paralleling a situation we have now provincially. But what did you make when he decided to finally resign? Was it too late?
No. Well, obviously, the time has proven that it was the right thing to do, because in the end, it saved his party. They replaced him with Mark Carney. They won close to a majority. They are one seat away today to a majority.
Could change any minute.
Maybe by the time this will be posted online, they will have a majority. Who knows? So we'll wait and see. But obviously, it was the right thing to do. And you were talking about the lead of the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. In the end, this entire story shows that people were not intending to vote for Poilievre. They were intending to vote out Justin Trudeau. They were voting to oust Justin Trudeau from power. They were fed up after 9 years in power. It's normal. I agree with Martine that in a democracy like ours, it's healthy to seek change after 9 years of having the same leader. And in the end, people were not necessarily intending to vote for the Conservatives. They were just looking for an alternative to the Liberals that were led by Justin Trudeau. And Carney being elected as leader has brought that change that satisfied Canadians. And in the end, they chose to stick with the Liberal Party.
I'm just curious one thing before we move on. From a communication strategy point of view, right? When Mark Carney became the leader of the party and the Prime Minister, the Conservatives' approach was still, hey, you know what, this is the same old Liberal, it's just a different face, nobody's changed, this is all this. Thinking that, if you were angry with the Liberal Party, this was your opportunity to say, of course, I'm going to vote Conservative. But people didn't buy that.
No.
Mark Carney was a fresh new face, despite they trying to attach him to the old Liberal Party. Even though everybody around him, there were no new faces around him. Why did that fail?
No, I think we have to establish that Mr. Carney and his team are extremely good at communication. His coming out was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart in the U.S. That was his coming out. Why did he do it? He essentially did it for an audience of one, Donald Trump. He did it on American television. He knows the president watches television all the time, and he came out and he was very relaxed, very good. But the message was, "Hey, I'm ready. I can talk the same language as this president." The president's language is television, and so we can't forget this is how he came out. Came out with a very strong message, but he was very calming. And the fact that he was a banker as well
Yeah.
meant that he spoke the language, because the first issue
Spoke Trump's language.
yeah, the first issue was a commercial issue. And I think we have to also recognize that, yes, he's a liberal, but more to the center. And even when you look at the biggest democracies, whether it's Canada, the US, and even in Europe, leaders have to lead from the center. Elected officials who don't understand that will be voted out. And so I find that many conservatives saw things they liked in Mark Carney. People from the more to the left heard things that they liked. And I think this is the way to lead for the next few years.
Right?
I think he's proven in the end that even though, and I agree, he's got almost the same team as Justin Trudeau around him. You know, the ministers are pretty much the same. Changed portfolios, but still pretty much the same team around him. So yes, we could say it's the same Liberal Party, but at the same time, if you look not just on a communications perspective, but also on a policy perspective, this is not the same Liberal Party that was run by Justin Trudeau for the past 10 years. This is a completely different party. He's governing almost like a progressive conservative on many aspects. When you think about the environment, when you think about the economy, trade, this is really not the same party. Even he was at the G20 recently in South Africa and said that Canada's international foreign policy was no longer feminist. So it's a real change in tone for that party that shifted from the center left under Justin Trudeau to probably the center right under Mark Carney today.
Right.
And also, we talk about the ministers. I think his behind the scene team is so strong. He went to get Michael Sabia. He went to get Marc-André Blanchard. These guys are like head of class. And so I agree with Raphaël. It's like there's a change. It's not the same team, even if some ministers are familiar. But I think communication-wise, policy-wise, behind the scenes, it's a different story.
So let's turn to Quebec, where really nothing much happened over the last year. We have a new Liberal leader. Well, I mean, it might change in the next hour and a half, but we don't know.
We still have a new Liberal leader.
Yes.
There might be a mutiny afoot. Well, there is a mutiny afoot, it seems. But this is unbelievable. Just as they're prepared to, stake their claim for power, with Monsieur Legault being forecast to having no seats possible in the next election, with people parking their votes with the PQ. Liberals are ready for a comeback. They're a few points behind. And then lo and behold, Marwa Risky basically decides, I don't know what she's thinking, but the whole party's imploded. Mr. Rodriguez is on very shaky ground. It's just unimaginable. I don't even know. Don't they have closed-door meetings where they discuss these things? They've killed the party. They're imploding. How do you make this?
Well, I mean, there's, at this point, and I think personally, 2026 will be very interesting. The beginning of 2026 will be very interesting because we have two leaders at the moment on the provincial stage whom are very weak. There's François Legault, we're going to talk about it a little later, I'm sure. And there's, of course, Pablo Rodriguez with all the scandals that have been coming out publicly these past few weeks. And I think that for Pablo Rodriguez, it's about, yes, his leadership, it's about the sake of his party and their chances of winning the next election against the PQ. But on top of that, I would say it's also a matter of national unity for Canada. Because if Pablo Rodriguez continues to cling to as leader of the Liberal Party, he might be serving a majority to the PQ on a silver plate.
Oh, for sure.
And if Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon gets a majority, he's going to launch a third referendum on Quebec sovereignty. So it's a matter also of keeping Canada united. It goes way beyond the self-interest of Pablo Rodriguez or the interest of the Liberal Party in Quebec. It's also about national unity. It's about avoiding a third referendum on sovereignty. So I really hope that at some point, and yet again, just this morning, Pablo Rodriguez repeated that he has tough skin, that he's going to remain as leader, and I hope that at some point he's going to come to the conclusion that he can't lead that party. The damage is done in terms of reputation. Whether it's true or false, it doesn't matter. It's not about facts right now. It's about perception in the end.
But what was
And
the
he
point
can't-
of like blowing up the party the way they have? Like, it just makes no sense. They were this close, and now, what were they thinking?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm very happy that the Liberal Party is realizing that Dominique Anglade was not the problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, so that's number one. I don't think Mr. Rodriguez should leave. There is such a thing as earning trust. Let him work hard to gain the trust
It's not
back.
too late.
It's not too late, particularly because you cannot pin anything wrong on him. You can't say this is what he did, there was malfeasance. You can't. The UPAC inquiry might come up empty. It makes me think a little bit of Hillary Clinton and the emails. Yes, there were a lot of talks about the emails, but at the end she was clear. It was too late, but she was
Yeah, but she
Yeah.
lost the election.
Yeah.
yeah, she won the popular vote. But
But it's a perception
Doesn't
reality
matter. Yeah.
point of view at this
No,
point.
I-
People are not even thinking what's real. They're
Well,
thinking what
okay.
they hear.
yes, but about perception, let him work out hard. Let him prove that the Liberal Party is the option. Why does it have to be easy? It's not supposed to be easy. Make him work for it. And then there's a letter circulating asking him to leave. But this morning they said there's a new letter asking him to stay. The point is not to please
The battle of letters.
Yeah, exactly. The point is not to please everybody. Only tequila can do that. So he has to work hard and say, I'm the best alternative to la CAQ. I'm the best alternative for the PQ. It's okay. I mean, politics is not sunshine and roses all the time.
Evidently
It's a
not.
blood sport, there's no question. But, as I hear you say this, and it's funny, I asked listeners on my show the same question, should he stay or should he go? This was yesterday before we found out today about, the money that was paid to some of his federal staffers when they came here.
Right.
And I would say 95% of people said it's time to go. With respect to perception versus reality, I realize that in the real world, we need facts and you can prove facts. But I think the voting public, sometimes, when perception overtakes reality,
Yeah, well, this is
you're
it.
done.
Yeah.
Whether you're guilty or not guilty, if people think you are and it takes you too long to prove you're not, you're done. But you don't
he
think
has,
so.
Well, he has 11 months.
Too late, though.
Not really.
Yes, and then, but the Liberal Party federally had much less than that, and they turned it around.
True.
I think there's an option, because I'm just thinking of the if he leaves, what next? You have to recruit again. And I'm not sure that the Liberal Party will ever be satisfied. I think internally there's a cultural shift that needs to happen, and this is why I mentioned Dominique Anglade, because she lost the election. She was supposed to leave. That's fine. Previous leaders have done it, but it's the way they pushed her out.
Yeah.
And I find the Liberal Party needs to do an examen de conscience.
Okay.
There needs to be a culture shift. I don't think the leader is the only problem, if he is at all. So
Yeah.
they have time to do that.
Okay.
There needs
Well,
to be a
the
regular.
thing
their philosophy is essentially, here's your go, what's your hurry? Get
The
get out of
thing
here.
is-
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not just about having 9 months to rebuild your reputation until people get to the polls. First of all, so far, the election could be in 9 months. It could also be in 3 months, because let's
Yeah.
not forget that François Legault still holds the prerogative to launch an election, an early election, if he wants. He could have a snap election in the spring, for instance, if he feels like polls are turning in favor of his party. So that could also happen. So let's take into consideration that, first of all. Second, I think anything that relates to ethics tends to stick much more to the Liberal brand because of past scandals.
Right.
That's right.
So it's going to remain in the minds of a lot of people, especially Francophones, which are still reluctant to vote for the Liberals, and that's where they need to pick up some momentum with the Francophone voters right now. If they want to win seats outside of the Greater Montreal area and eventually stand a chance at having a majority at the National Assembly, they need to reconnect with Francophones. And this whole scandal is certainly not going to help with Francophone voters particularly. Now, the momentum is also about, right now, parties are recruiting star candidates, they're organizing fundraising events, so it's not just about what's going to happen in 9 months. It's about what should be happening right now in those parties, and they are completely. They can't do anything. It's very hard to approach star candidates, potential star candidates, and say, "Hey, would you like to run with us?" Nobody wants to be associated with that at the moment.
And you know that this new letter that's circulating asking him to stay is mostly from volunteers, and they are the base of campaigns. I do agree that it's challenging, but in the same token, I think if strong liberal voices come together, there could be a turnaround.
The Corner Booth podcast is brought to you in part by the Snowdon Delicatessen, where we are. 75 years in business, the home of Montreal's greatest smoked meat, plus carnotzel, potato latkes, and the famous Snowdon Deli party sandwiches. That's the Snowdon Delicatessen. Since we're talking about this, before we move on, we were just chatting early. There are conspiracy theories abounding now about how this happened, why it happened. The CAC set this up to happen. Where did this? The part I don't understand about all this is it all began with Marwa Risky, right? Very respected member of the Liberal Party, representing the party in the House, and then all of a sudden, Geneviève Vance gets fired or terminated, and then Pablo Rodriguez finds out about it secondhand. She doesn't come to him to say, "This is what I'm going to do," and that's when it all started. We have not heard a word publicly from Marwa Risky since this began, which seems strange because she's part of the party, even though she said she would not run in the next provincial election. How did we lose control of this so quickly?
I don't find it strange, actually, because Marwa Risky is a lawyer by profession. She knows what she can or can't do. So if she was made aware of some information, if she has in her hands some proofs that could be eventually used in a legal process against people that have committed illegal actions, then she knows that she can't disclose that information to people who might have been involved in those schemes.
So she couldn't go to Pablo and say, "Look what I found out, and what should I do?"
Let's say it's very hypothetical here, but if she deems or if she thinks that Pablo or some of his close collaborators, advisors, have been involved in this, she can go to Pablo saying, "Hey, your best friend, Geneviève Vance, one of your best friends, has done this and that," or apparently, according to the information that I have, you have been involved in this and that, because that would be disclosing information, proofs that could be eventually used in a court of justice. So she knows what she can and can't do.
Right.
And you know what? Here, I really trust Marwa Risky. She had no interest. She was the parliamentary leader of that party. She herself, as an MNA, supported Rodriguez during the leadership campaign.
And she doesn't want to be in the next election anyway.
Exactly. So why would she all of a sudden turn around the guy that she herself supported and that gave her the job as parliamentary leader? Would make no sense. So I think she really has some very solid ground, some good reasons to act like
What I want to know is what kind of temperature exists in the Risky Kelly household, because her husband is choosing to remain in the Liberal caucus and she's on the outs, and that is bizarre.
And her father-in-law is a former Liberal MNA. And let me tell you, Christmas parties in this family are going to be quite tense.
No, it's nuts. More nuts is the fact that Monsieur Legault took a walk in the snow the other day and decided he's going to run. And then after doing nothing for 6 months with Bill 2 and all the rest, all of a sudden he's come to some sort of agreement which runs until February, at which point they're going to do something to get rid of all these things that are annoying the doctors. But he waited 6 months. He could have done this. He lost his base. Will he ever recover from this?
All this for that.
All this for that.
Will he recover? I'm not sure. I think within the party, don't forget, you had Minister Fitzgibbon who left, and you have all these tenors who are probably not going to run again. I think that makes a difference. I also believe that Lionel Carman leaving was very symbolic. Obviously, he chose family over politics, which is very understandable.
And principles.
And friendship, because they're close friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that was very symbolic. It's people maybe not believing blindly the leader anymore. And so I wonder if one morning Premier Legault's going to wake up and look to his left and look to his right and see no one, right? So, I mean, he is a fighter. And maybe he still believes that he can lead the province, and it's to electors to prove him wrong.
And as long as there's Anglos and immigrants to bash, I mean,
And
for the regions,
and that's always the PQ also uses this tired
divide and conquer.
Yeah, this very tired and unoriginal tactic. Yes.
I agree with Martine. At some point, Legault will have to walk in the snow again and think twice about it because, I mean, this is the party he established himself. He brought this party to life because he wanted to offer Quebecers a third way, another option between sovereignty and status quo federalism. And the question to him would be, are you ready to let your baby die with you? Because of your own ambition. Because you can't accept the fact that you're done. It's clear. It's been a clear trend for over a year now. Quebecers want change. And as we have seen on the federal stage, it's possible for a party to change leader and all of a sudden become a new party in the eyes of the majority.
Raphaël, let me ask you, who do you see as, inside of La CAQ, who do you see leading the party?
Now you're becoming the host.
Yes.
So
Wait
who would
a
I
sec.
see?
They love it when I do that.
So who would I see? Well, I know that internally, well, first of all, I know for a fact that Geneviève Guilbeault no longer hides her ambition. Like, she's openly campaigning, she's preparing her campaign. Now, with everything that happened with sa clique, I don't know if she's still in the game.
Tough sell.
I would really see someone, well, probably Simon-Jolin
Duranceau.
Barrette.
Madame Durand.
Oh, Duranceau is out. Like she had a very bad experience in politics. I don't think she's going to run again, to be honest with you. Simon-Jolin Barrette would probably be running. I would really see Sonia Lebel. She's done a terrific job. She's a good communicator. She has a strong character. She's been in very important portfolios. So she would be a serious contender for the job, I believe. And then we hear some rumors. They're persistent. I don't really believe them, but we hear some rumors that Mario Dumont, the former leader of the ADQ, very well known and respected in Quebec Francophone media. Well, so far, the man himself doesn't say anything, but we hear some persistent rumor that Dumont could be tempted to replace Legault to run for the leadership of the CAQ, because basically, after 15 years in the media, it would be pretty much his last chance to materialize his dream of becoming Quebec Premier as leader of the CAQ. So that could be interesting. It could really completely change the political landscape if someone like a big name like Mario Dumont were to run for Premier. But these are just rumors. I don't really believe
Do you think
them.
if he was to run, does Mario Dumont have the best chance to win?
I think if he were to run, let's say he's facing a weakened leader like Pablo Rodriguez, and on the other side you have Paul Saint-Pierre who would continue to talk consistently about sovereignty and a referendum. I think Mario Dumont really.
What about Monsieur Duhem?
Okay, that's what I want to bring up because I don't get this part.
Yeah.
Eric Duhem is a very likable guy.
Right.
I've spoken to him. We've had him on the
a few
podcast
times,
before. He's perfectly bilingual. And he took the opportunity, once this whole Pablo Rodriguez issue started, to spend, 1 day's worth of advertising money.
We love
to
you,
run a
Anne
headline
Boats. We
said,
love you, immigrants.
no referendum, no corruption, in other words, vote conservative. And I was thinking about this the other day and actually said to our listeners, I said, people might consider voting for Eric Duhem or for the Conservatives if we knew anybody in that party besides Eric Duhem.
Point.
Where's someone you can recruit and say, hey, I have a team, look who's joining me, which he hasn't been able to do. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. It is a one-man show. And for so long, La CAQ was a one-man show as well. And so I'm not sure what's the path forward for the Conservative Party of Quebec. I do believe in the diversity of voices and of parties. I think when we have that, we win as electors. We have more choice, but I don't see it. I don't think the programs were ever strong, and I think you can't. When you're in politics, you can't only be against what's happening. You have to propose things, right? And I don't see it. I don't hear it, so I'm not sure how he moves forward.
Well, Duhem had some interesting ideas. He was proposing, I think, the best option for the Quebec, the troisième lien in Quebec City, the third link. He had the most realistic proposal of all of them, rather than having a tunnel, having it as a going through l'Île d'Orléans. So, but still, I think that for them the issue is about credibility.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, he sided with conspiracy theorists. It's about the base of this party as well. So this is not. They're called the Conservatives, but they have nothing in common with the federal Conservative. They're ideologically closer to Maxime Bernier's PPC than to the federal Conservatives here. So I think the issue is about credibility. It's also about past positions that will stick to him. His alliance with anti-vax people, with people who were against sanitary measures during the pandemic, this rhetoric, constant rhetoric about some conspiracy theories, and the people who surround him and his candidates as well have sparked controversy in the past, and I think in the minds of a lot of Quebecers that makes them unfit for the job.
Does he need to sort of get that, off his back, if you will, to come out and say, look, what I said then is no longer what I believe now?
Well, if he does that, he's going to be
That happens in politics.
Well, yes, but if he does that, he's going to be facing a mutiny from inside his party, because even right now there are some people who are challenging his leadership, saying he's not far right enough to them.
Oh God.
He tried. It's pretty much these marginal, I would say, parties that are more to the extremes, and it's the same thing with Québec solidaire. Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois tried to bring Québec solidaire closer to the center left, and in the end, it didn't work out because the base of that party is much more of an activist base, and they don't want to go there. They don't want to broaden their coalition. They want to fight for an ideology. They're not here to seize power. They're here to push for ideas.
Time to bring back the Union Nationale.
Actually, it was revived recently. Still there, and by people who were not satisfied of Éric Duhaim's positions. So former members of the Quebec Conservative Party who were far more to the right, who said, well, this party doesn't represent us anymore, let's revive the Union Nationale. So you have a new Union Nationale, except it's far more right, and it's just a bunch of conspiracy
I think that in
theories.
the spirit of, changing, changing teams in the middle, why not just have Éric Duhaime run for leadership of the Liberal Party?
That would work.
Right? It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
People know him. They like him. I think he could win that way. So you might
Done
want to
deal.
mention that.
Done deal.
We're going to run out of time.
No,
we have to talk
we have
about
to-
what happened.
the mayor.
Let's talk about what happened municipally this year. Valerie Plante let it be known she'd not be running for re-election. After, of course, she said she would be, and then changed
no
her
walk in
mind.
the snow.
I'd like to know why you think that happened, number one. Was she told, okay, ça suffit, it's time to move on? Because she told me very, very clearly, oh, no, I'm running again.
Well, she
and
came
then
here and
changed her
told
mind.
us,
So
yeah.
why?
Well, first of all, people can have the right to change their minds. That's number one. And it's no cakewalk to be a mayor. Maybe it could be a million things. We'll never know. What I do like with what I see, and I very much believe in the power of municipal politics. I believe in its power and its influence. And what I like and what I'm seeing is collaborations between the mayor of Laval, the mayor of Longueuil, the mayor of Quebec City who came here, the new mayor of Montreal. I love to see that. I think that's the only way, because these cities have common problems. And I think the fact that they come together and say, oh, how can we be partners is essential. And that's the only way to fix some of the structural issues that all cities have.
But you didn't see that in Projet.
No.
So you're seeing that now with the new
I'm
municipal.
seeing it, and I saw with Mayor Ferrandes Martinez that that she was open to this collaboration, and I like to see the energy of these mayors, the mayor of Laval, the mayor of Longueuil, the mayor of Quebec City, and other mayors as well. I like to see this energy trying to get. I think our turnout rate was embarrassing. I'm hoping that collectively we get more interested in municipal politics. And I was listening to the mayor-elect of New York, Zoran Mandani, and that type of energy and his type of messaging. And at one point he said, no problem is too small. And I love that type of that way of approaching politics. And I think we'll see that as well with various Quebec mayors.
Okay, just before you answer, and I understand the part about, everyone's entitled to change their mind. My question was, do you think the party pushed the mayor in that direction because she wasn't doing enough what they wanted ideologically?
I don't know.
Okay.
What I heard from people who are very close to Valérie Plante is that she was tired.
Okay.
And you know what? Politics is very hard on human beings. It's hard on you, the constant criticism. I would say, especially
The hate mail, too.
I worked for
the
three
hate
ministers in my life.
media.
I worked for three ministers in my life. Two of them were women, and let me tell you something. Critics are much more harsh on you if you're a woman than if you're a man. I've seen it myself. So there's that. It's hard on your family as well. Not just the person who holds the office, but also the people who surrounds them. So she was tired, and you know what? I think in the end, it was the right thing to do. I think in politics, you do 2 terms and you leave. The third term is oftentimes the one too much. That's where scandals happen. That's where people are fed up of you. That's where it gets really dirty sometimes. If you look back at past politicians, it's oftentimes the third term. That's where everything
This is
goes
why
wrong.
This is why so many countries have term
Term
limits.
limits. And it's a healthy thing to do. Again, in a democracy, we're talking about Justin Trudeau. After 9 years, people want to change. After 7 years of François Legault, people want change too. So, and yet again, François Legault said a few years ago that he was going to stick to 2 terms. I think he should go back to that mentality because, I mean, if you run for a third term, most oftentimes you're going to lose your re-election.
So when you talk about people getting tired, so you weren't surprised then that Ensemble won this election? Because it seems to me Soraya was ahead out of the gate. First poll had her ahead, and it stayed that way through the campaign.
It was about people closely associated Valérie Plante to Projet Montréal. So it was not just about getting rid of Valérie
vote
Plante.
against Projet.
It's about Projet Montréal, the whole administration. Also the fact that they chose Luc Rabouin as their leader. So he was the second-hand man of Valérie Plante for so many years.
Not much charisma there, was
Not
it?
much charisma either. So I think it was already a done thing for Soraya Martine-Ferrat. No matter who would have been elected the leader of Ensemble Montréal, had a long step forward on any of their opponents because there was already a strong will for change. 3/4 of Montrealers wanted to see change at City Hall. So that's something that's really hard to challenge and to fight.
And the reason why I had mentioned Mayor Mandani and his motto, no problem is too small, is because as Montrealers, we grew so frustrated. Can you fix the potholes? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can my garbage be picked up? These are essential. This affects us
on a daily basis.
On a daily basis. And so these little problems that we saw amplified instead of being fixed became too much for us to say, oh, you know what? Never mind that. Yes, please continue. Let's re-elect this party who has been completely unable. And then I think the report of la vérificatrice was very telling about construction and the cones, and she said it's a lack of communication, and that's so fundamental. And so I don't think I thought it was normal that Montrealers said enough. Let's start fresh.
Yeah, if everything was beautiful under the sun with Valérie Plante, then maybe people would have thought about re-electing.
When's the last time everything was beautiful under the sun?
Yeah, exactly. But they
Who's
didn't
the
deliver.
mayor?
They didn't deliver on most of the promises they made 8 years ago. So at some point, if people see change being implemented, maybe they're going to vote them again in office. But they didn't fix the problems when it comes to housing, homelessness, the pink line. I mean, never seen anything about it after she was elected in 2017. So in the end, people want to change also because they didn't get what they voted for.
But Raph, look at the cyclists.
Yeah.
They got everything they want.
Wonderful.
But I think there is a legacy that will take
a long time
a
too.
few years for us to appreciate. I think when you look at Montreal, the greenery, I think that makes a difference, and we will appreciate that in a few years. But the frustrations took over what went right. And I find that's unfortunate for her legacy. But
She's going to be plagued, though,
But
with
we
the
will-
same gridlock issues, the same orange cone issues as
Maybe not.
everybody else. Well, we'll
maybe
see.
not. If
But
she changes the way that they manage.
Yeah, and she says that's a priority for her. She said that in her
But
campaign.
if she backs down on the plan to close the Camillien Hood, that'll make some people feel better.
Well, that's already in the plans. You know, she's reinvesting basically the 90 many $100 million
Right.
that were budgeted for Camille Way are already being redirected to building small shelters in boroughs, so outside of the downtown core of Montreal.
She's
So
off to a
that's
good start.
interesting.
I do.
So basically, not much happened this year. But if you had something else to talk about for the year, what sticks out for either of you, and both of you, in fact? What else did pivotal moments in this past year, apart from the politics we just talked about?
Well, I think there's something Montrealers should be very proud of is the fact that Montreal is an AI hub. And I bring it because Time magazine named its Person of the Year. It's a collective. They're architects of AI. But the people featured are a little bit scary because they use AI not necessarily for good. Whereas Montreal, we have, ethics is at the center of this AI hub. And I believe we can continue to lead in that way, using AI for good. And when Yoshi Abenjo went to, who's the one of the godfathers of AI, and he's a Montrealer, we should be very proud. And he went to Congress in the U.S. and he said, let's slow down a little bit. And this is kind of the Montreal way, and I think we need to recognize it and be very proud of the AI hub.
Raph?
We talked about federal politics, we talked about provincial politics and municipal politics, but we didn't talk about international politics. And this year particularly is the year where Donald Trump came back to the White House. And this has had a tremendous impact on our internal politics here in this country. I don't think Mark Carney would be Prime Minister of Canada had it not been for Donald Trump. I mean, economically speaking, the whole country is changing right now. We're making enormous progress in terms of interprovincial trade right now, thanks to Donald Trump. So, when Mark Carney was in the Oval Office and hailed President Trump for being a transformational president, could see it as a positive or a negative way of saying it, but he's still, in my point of view, transformational for Canada. Maybe that wasn't his intention initially, but still, we're making huge progresses in terms of how we deal together as a country between provinces, but also how we deal with other international partners. We're developing trade partnerships elsewhere in the world because of the U.S., and I think this was the wake-up call that we needed as a country, because our economy for way too long was too dependent on the U.S. economy, and finally we needed that to open our eyes and see that we needed to develop more our relationship with other partners elsewhere in the world.
Maybe Jean Charest was right when he said in 10 years from now we'll thank Donald Trump for waking us up.
Absolutely.
And I will say about Jean Charest how great it was to have this type of renaissance and to hear him, to see him more and explain things to us in a very understandable way, but also for him to represent us, right? I thought that was great. And I will say this about 2026 and Montreal. It breaks my heart that we're not getting any FIFA World Cup games. But it's a reminder that we're not the world-class city that we think that we are. We're a great city, but we can't even attract these types of, we can't even hold
baseball
these types of
team,
events.
Basketball team, World Cup.
I mean, Vancouver's getting FIFA games. Toronto's getting FIFA games.
It's very distressing.
But Martine, we're spending, it'll be over $1 billion by the time we're done on the Olympics.
Yeah, right.
So I'm sure that's going to change everything.
And don't forget, after 8 years of Valérie Plante, we were talking about Valérie Plante not long ago, but the city under Coderre was really focused on being a big international city, whereas people elected Valérie Plante specifically because she wanted to bring it back to a city of neighborhoods.
Right.
But many things can be true at once. I think if you look at a city like Vancouver, who's able to hold the FIFA games, they have issues. I'm not saying it's a perfect city, but we can be this neighborly city and be a city able to attract.
There will be other opportunities, I'm sure.
And we will leave it at that. I want to thank you both, Martine Saint-Victor, Raphaël Melançon.
Thank
we
you.
will see you again soon on the next edition of the Corner Booth Podcast. Thanks for watching.